Welcome, everyone, to this meeting of the Council of the Town of Oakville. It's July 9th, 2024, and we have regrets from Councillor Adams, Councillor Longo, and Councillor Shi. The first thing I would do is I would invite everybody to join Council in O Canada. Please be seated. In 1820, Indigenous people here began welcoming settlers from all over the empire. Soon they were helping blacks escaping from the United States to settle here too. Today, our Indigenous founding partners are still here enjoying the land with us. They fish and camp under their treaty rights. Indigenous people in their thousands also live with us as neighbors and friends. Our Indigenous white and black settlers created a community with an attractive degree of harmony and prosperity. In 1857, Ontario gave official recognition of Oakville as a town. At Town Hall, all of these years later, we fly the flag of the Mississaugas of the Credit beside the flags of Oakville, Ontario, and Canada. We fly these flags together to acknowledge what our origins are. People from all over the world are attracted to the livability that we have created. We offer newcomers a warm spirit of welcome. We offer everyone our founding story so everyone knows what we are part of. We feel sorrow and distress for acts of racism and intolerance suffered across Canada and here at home. We want our future to be equitable and inclusive for everyone. The path of truth and reconciliation can unite us all. Please keep well, stay safe, and let us on council know of any chance to be helpful to you and yours. And please let us know anytime you can help increase Oakville's harmony, prosperity, and livability. Councillor, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Madam Clerk, I see none. Council, I'll solicit a motion and a second for all of the minutes listed in the agenda tonight. Councillor Lischina and Councillor Knoll, thank you. Any objection? There being none, that carries. We have no public presentations, and we do have I intended that motion to cover item 6, the standing committee reports. And so that brings us to the need to resolve into committee of the whole. We need a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Chisholm and Councillor Elger, thank you. Any objection? There being none, that's carried. We have a consent item and a confidential consent item. I would look for a motion to accept both consent items, and let me see what happens. Councillor Knoll gives me a motion. Is there an objection to that? There being none, that carries. Thank you. So that brings us to our discussion item. Now, we have 5 discussion items, and 2 of them are related, the first one and the 5th one. And so for efficiency and comprehension, I'm gonna package 10.5. We'll go to 10.5 right after we do 10.1. And they both concern Oakville Marine Search and Rescue and the relocation to Bronte Harbor. So we have no presentation. Staff are available for questions, and we have a delegation from Mr. Harry Shea of the Brawny Village Residents Association. Welcome, Mr. Shea. We look forward to your information.
Good evening, Mayor Burton and members of Town Council. The proposed budget announcement for Oakville's Marine Search and Rescue relocation to the Metro Marine Building raises several concerns. The first of which is the lack of public engagement. Next slide, please. On Wednesday, June 29th, as part of the future Bronte Streetscape Plan, the public came together at 2 public information meetings. The Planning Partnership, which is the consulting company advancing these discussions, identified 6 character areas within their work. Character area number 5 includes the Metro Marine Building and the surrounding area. Moving unilaterally on the relocation to the Metro Marine Building without any public engagement negates any goodwill generated by these 2 public engagement sessions, and sadly says in the end, your opinion doesn't really matter. The staff report does not address why there was no public engagement, yet concludes their report by stating that the public is not affected by the relocation. Second is heritage. Next slide, please. The Metro Marine Building is a designated heritage building. Surely that designation alone would dictate that in considering its future use, any significant changes or any modifications would merit public engagement and a significant degree of oversight. Also, the staff report highlights that the Metro Marine Building is leased to a boat repair tenant. The town's harbors staff do utilize workstations and storage in a portion of the north side of the building. These kinds of current and continued uses not only diminishes the building's historical value, but also severely restricts its potential for any future use. Is this truly the best use for a designated heritage building? Has the potential future use and its impact on the building been vetted by Heritage Oakville? And if not, why not? Third is ignoring the Bronte Harbor Master Plan 2016, 2018, and 2025 restart. Next slide, please. These are screenshots. This slide is screenshots from the town's 2016 and 2018 Harbor Master Plan shown in this collage sounds the town's logos. This slide demonstrates that public engagement and reporting back on the community's input was a cornerstone in these 2 previous plans. Next slide, please. Forcing this apparent quick decision ignores the previous Bronte Harbor Master Plans and all the work associated with it. I remember the town of Oakville asking for input from residents on how its future use could be envisioned. I, for one, provided my input. I found my submission, dusted off the cobwebs, and it was making it a high-tech innovation hub for Oakville startups. It seems today community input and the general subject of the Metro Marine Building has fallen by the wayside. This current budget proposal does nothing but diminish the future possibilities for this valuable heritage property on prime real estate. And Nick, if you could have the, oh, sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Fourth, an alternate location. Next slide, please. Surely other viable solutions for relocation to Bronte exist. There is no mention of this kind of analysis in the staff report. For example, relocation to the non-heritage and underutilized bathroom building might be a more suitable location. With a second floor addition, this revised location is closer to the public launch ramp with the added benefit of more interaction with the public. And I have a little show and tell. So Nick, if we can do the overhead. Okay. So this is, oh, sorry, okay. So this is the before of what exists currently. This is what a potential second floor might look like in a more traditional way, and then this is a third view of something a bit more modern.
I'll do something. Mr. Shea, if you
Yes, sir.
if you could hold off a second, we'll ask the technical people to figure out a way to share the screen so that the counselors can see your illustrations. Only the audience and those at home, I think, or I'm not even sure about those at home, can see it. So if you
Okay.
just wait a second
Oh, yeah, no worries.
while we see if the technical gurus can get that for us. I got a thumbs up, which means we'll see it any second, Council. I hope. Pardon? There you go.
Okay. So this is the before shot, as it were. This would be with a more traditional look for a second floor. And this has a more modern feel to it, but obviously has a second floor addition. Next slide, please. Sorry for all the confusion. Okay, closing comments, great. And finally, why is the town making this quick decision now, taking it away from the public, when the consultation around the Bronte Harbor Master Plan is scheduled to restart in 2025? We respectfully ask that this matter be referred back to staff to provide additional options beyond the Metro Marine building. I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for bringing that to us, Mr. Shea. Let me see if there are questions for you. Yes, there are. Councillor Duddick and Councillor McNeese. Councillor Duddick?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to the delegate, Harry, are you, when you say to refer it back to look at different options, are you also including the consultation that's involved with this, i.e. the public consultation you referenced that has been lacking thus far?
Yes, ma'am. So going forward, if there was going to be, reverting it back to the staff report with multiple options, that we would hope that it would include consultation. And that's why I showed the one slide where in the past, in 2016 and 2018, there was public consultation.
Super. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McNeese?
Thank you, through your worship. Thank you for the delegation there and the visuals. So I'm intrigued by the washroom facility there. So that is on the beach side, which isn't as popular as where most visitors come. That's right. Correct. That's also where the public boat launch ramp is, the only one for Bronte. Right. Correct. That's where the beach that's getting some improvements is
Later
as
this
year.
Year.
Yep. And that's sort of a side that I think needs a little more sort of eyes on the street. Is that sort of fair to say? I mean, it's a little hidden.
Well, it's an area that's been underdeveloped, and I think this would rejuvenate it for sure.
Okay. So I would certainly like to see that as one of the options that staff comes back with. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Mr. Shea.
Thank you.
I'm not aware of any other delegations. Councillor O'Meara.
Thank you, Worship. I just have a couple of questions of staff, if that's appropriate.
They are.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if staff can give an update on the Harbor's business plan and where we're at with that and sort of where that process is going.
Through you, Mayor Burton, the Harbor's business plan, we're hoping to restart in 2025. As you know, we are still in negotiations with the federal government for the lands at the Outer Harbor, and not having a clear direction in terms of the ownership of those lands, it's very difficult to do a business plan for the overall harbors when we don't own the land as of yet, which limits our options in terms of what we could come back to council in a business plan with options and opportunities for council. So that is really where it's at. We're still, through our legal department, constantly in touch with the federal government and trying to do our best to move this forward as quickly as we can.
And I get that, and I know that's sort of been the reason why we've been holding off for a long time. But I mean, in order to develop a plan, we don't need the ownership. We would like to know that that's secure in it. But I mean, a plan is still a theoretical document, and it's an actionable item, and it can change. Is there anything stopping us from moving ahead with developing a plan, even though we haven't got ownership over the land at this point, but at least to start developing the plan?
Through you, Mayor Burton, certainly we could do that. There's a lot of uncertainty in terms of ownership of the land, but certainly having run the operation now for over 3 years, we know the business very well, as we didn't when we first took it over. So certainly we could embark on, I guess, the framework of a business plan, if you want to call it. Certainly we know the inner harbors well, but frankly, the land ownership is a big issue. But I'm not saying we couldn't start the framework of a plan in 25 as we currently have in the budget.
That's great. I appreciate that. And I know there's been a lot of questions even with the people at the Brawny Yacht Club as well, and where they're going to end up, and they have accessibility issues there, and where the kayaks and canoes get stored, and all these sorts of other elements that I think are all going to feed into a plan. And I know there has been talk about how we get some sort of pedestrian walkway and linkage over to the beach. I mean, so there's a lot of moving pieces, I think, that rightly so have caused some there's been an optimism about what it could be, and I know when we went over this in 2016 and 18 and 19, I think it got a lot of excitement here. So I think that's why a few people were sort of a little taken aback. It just we seem to be moving the chess pieces a little bit without doing that. But I understand there are needs out there, and I know Tow Wharf is one of them, and I support Tow Wharf and finding a location for them, and I actually think Brawny would be a great place. I'm just trying to figure out how it all fits together. Your Worship, I would be happy to move referral back to staff, and so that they can go out. And I know the condo owners at 100 Brawny Road had concerns too. They need to access their building, and they usually use that area in behind the Metro Marina as well, sometimes to get AC units off of the roof and these sorts of things. So they had some questions as well. So if staff are okay with that, to go back and maybe we can help arrange a meeting and some discussions with some of the stakeholders in place, I'd be happy to move referral back to staff.
Thank you, Councillor O'Meara. Help me here and the clerk. Can I take it that your motion would be to refer this matter back to staff to develop more options and conduct public consultation and produce a recommendation to council?
That sounds fantastic. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. And Councillor Hazard-Thiel.
Thank you, Mayor Burton. I'd like to ensure that the reuse and the vision for Tow Wharf is part of that refer back. While there's been on and off discussions about the possibility of something at Tow Wharf, I don't believe the public has been properly consulted and has a clear understanding of what could happen at that facility. And if we're going to make a decision about a relocation, I think it would be important to understand what are the next steps at Tow Wharf. At the same time, we're making a decision about moving them out of the building. So I'd like that to be included in the motion.
Councillor, perhaps we could add, with the consent of the mover, a second point, which is to consult the public about future uses of 2 Navy Street, which is the property in question, where Tow Wharf was located before they changed their name to Oakville Marine Search and Rescue.
If the mover's okay with that, that would be my request.
That's fine with me. Thanks.
All right. So the motion's put together with some collaboration here. Anyone else? I'll put the motion then. Is there any objection to the motion? Madam Clerk, there's no objection. That carries. Now, let's just take a gander at... So 10.5 is that the council provides staff direction on the options for funding Oakville Search and Marine Rescue as outlined in the report from Parks and Open Space and Finance Departments. And the direction is offered by Councillor Lischina and Councillor O'Meara, who have brought us a motion that I'll read unless the councillors would like to read it. I'm happy to save my voice for later. Councillor Lischina, would you like to read your motion?
Sure, thank you, Your Worship. As everybody has spoken today, we were talking about tow wharf as in the old vessel, and we are getting a new state-of-the-art vessel, which is the Oakville Marine Search and Rescue, OMSAR. And so, first of all, we're very thankful for all the work that the volunteers, the men and women of OMSAR who do this work day in, day out throughout the summer months to help our residents on the water. And so that's where this motion comes from. And just to quickly read it, whereas the waters of Oakville are not only utilized by recreational boaters, but also by a significant number of residents engaging in activities such as kayaking, swimming, canoeing, and other forms of water-based recreation, whereas the safety and security of all users of Oakville's waters, including families and individuals who enjoy these natural resources for leisure and exercise, are of paramount importance to the community, whereas the Oakville Marine Search and Rescue Services play a critical role in ensuring the well-being of all users of the town's waterways, providing essential emergency response capabilities and peace of mind to residents and visitors alike. Be it resolved that the full cost of Oakville Marine Search and Rescue be split 55% tax levy and 45% voter fee in line with the tasking data be approved. And just to let council know that this actually translates to 4 cents of the 100% of assessment. And so I hope to have unanimous support for this. Thank you. And thank you to Councillor O'Meara for seconding it before we went into committee of the whole.
Councillor O'Meara, did you want to speak to this?
No, well, yes, I do, sorry. I thank Councillor Lischina for bringing forward, and, you know, obviously in Brawny we see paddle boarders and kayaks and stand-up paddle boards and all types of users using the water, and a lot of them are the ones that get in trouble and need the help and assistance. One thing I would like to see the town look at as a possible revenue driver for that are rentable lockers for stand-up paddle boats, for kayaks, for those places that residents could rent, and those funds could be allocated towards tow wharf, or those funds could be used in some way. I know Director Mark has answered many calls of canoes chained to trees up against the rivers and behind fences and places, and I think there's a market for that out there. So perhaps we can explore that a little later. But yeah, I think it's a great motion, and thank you very much again, Councillor Lischina, for that.
Thank you, Councillor O'Meara, for those suggestions as well. Councillor Haslett-Deal.
Thank you. My question's to staff. Could you just give us I understand that the levy of $55 was considered to be significant, and you've referenced in the report additional fees. Do I have an approximate total fee that a boater would have to pay to use the services? Is there a ballpark?
Through you, Mayor Burton, it's a range of fees because it's different size of boat requires different pricing. I would say an in-town boater on average would be spending in the range, if they're a full service customer, which is what we like to see, they're probably in the range of about $7,000 to $8,000 per year for the package. Because they not only pay for their mooring slip, they also pay for winter storage, they pay for launching, they pay for hauling, they pay for cradle storage. There's their mast, if they have a sailboat, their mast comes up, comes down, that's another cost as well. So there is a suite of fees that we have within our tariff of rates and fees within the harbors that our customers pay in addition to the mooring rates, which is obviously the most expensive.
So does that provide us with full cost recovery?
I would say, not being the treasurer, I would say the harbor sections does not operate at full cost recovery. There is a significant debenture cost because of the dredging we do for the creeks.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. My other question is just around the percentage, the 55%. Could you just, somebody walk me through that math just a little bit about how we got to that 55?
So in the appendix of the report, there's a graph table that lists TOWARF, I keep going back to TOWARF, 50 years. Oakville Marine Search and Rescue went back in the last 10 years to review the tasking data. And they felt that the 6 years that they presented in the report accurately reflected a good review of the taskings that they've undertaken on behalf of the JCRA. The 55% is the taskings in summary that they are doing for non-recreational boaters, if you will, non-Oakville boaters. So they're out there on missions, on rescues for other people who are besides recreational boaters in the town of Oakville that are paying the fee. So the 55% is really the number of, in summary, the taskings over the last 6 years that they've gone out for that have been non-Oakville boaters. So 55 non-Oakville boaters, 45 Oakville boaters.
Great, thanks very much.
Director Mark, maybe you would like to supplement that with just a brief explanation about how Oakville Marine Search and Rescue cooperates with the Coast Guard and gets tasked by them.
Through you, Mayor Burton, actually Commander Cliff Feehan is here with us tonight from OMSAR, and I think he would be far more eloquent to be able to present exactly what the taskings are that they receive from the Coast Guard.
Good evening. OMSAR responds to taskings as directed by JRCC, which is the Joint Rescue Coordination Center in Trenton. So as a member of the Coast Guard Auxiliary, we work on behalf of, or work within the SAR, Marine SAR network for Western Lake Ontario. So often there will be, situations that are outside of Oakville area where multiple assets are required to perform the search adequately. Often there might be aircraft, fixed wing and helicopter. There might be several other Coast Guard auxiliary vessels that are deployed, as well as the Coast Guard cutter. And the same is true when we have a situation in Oakville that demands a greater response. So we've had situations in the last several years where Oakville boaters, one notably from Oakville Yacht Club, was missing, solo sailor, and we had at least 3 or 4 other auxiliary units in our local waters that were participating in that search, along with aircraft and also the marine units, police marine units.
Thank you very much. I think it's helpful for the public to know that we cooperate with our neighbors and our other authorities and merge our efforts when needed.
Thank you.
All right, Council, may I put the motion by Councilors Lichina and O'Meara? Any objection? Madam Clerk, there's no objection, so that carries. Council, the main event here tonight, I suspect, is the predatory towing measures that we're contemplating. And so to clear the decks for that, I wonder if I could try 10.4 on you to see if you're prepared to increase the budget to deal with the unexpected expenses in the Royal Windsor Bridge Drive rehabilitation. Councillor Giddings?
Mr. Mayor, I do have a couple of questions of staff on this one. Thanks for the report. I must admit it, when I read it over the weekend, it woke me up very quickly with the additional cost that's involved with that, and that the bridge was last inspected in 2021. So the additional costs, obvious that the report's clear in terms of what's needed. It's like buying an old house and removing the drywall and seeing that everything's rotten, or Just wondering how it can jump so quickly.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Our design consultant and our staff had access to a number of historical records and as well as inspections that we used to develop the scope of work. We reviewed the design drawings from 1954. We reviewed the past rehabilitation work, the OSIM inspections, conducted visual inspections, and conducted testing on site to determine the initial scope of work that was put forward as part of the tender and was awarded that $9.1 or $9 million budget. But I can tell you, having been on site just last week, that the conditions from one spot on the bridge to another can vary significantly. We were hammer tapping on the concrete, and you could hear the difference between one section and a section just a couple of feet over in terms of what was happening underneath it. And so when we got on site and started to do the work and started to remove the concrete, we found that there was significantly more deterioration than we expected. We also found there were some differences between what was on the drawings and what we had based the tender on. And so it really was not until we got in there and started to remove the concrete, remove the steel elements to clean those, that we were able to tell the scope of the work that needed to be done.
And at 70 years old, the report talks about it's just about done in terms of its useful life. Does it make sense to rebuild it now as opposed to putting many millions of dollars into it? I'm just wondering the cost justification versus putting more money into it. How long will that make it good for, or whether it should be rebuilt now?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We did look at a number of options before putting forward the one that's before you tonight for the extensive rehabilitation. And this is the route that we're recommending to go forward. A key part of this is returning Royal Windsor Drive to 4 lanes in its full capacity and ensuring that it continues to operate without lane restrictions or load restrictions while we're moving forward with the design of the ultimate replacement of the bridge. So this work will extend the lifespan of the bridge by 10 to 15 years to allow us to do that design work and allow it to operate at full capacity while we're doing that design and construction work. If we were to look at other options, that we could not guarantee that we would be able to return it to 4 lanes or to operate it without lane or load restrictions.
All right, so it gives us another 10 to 15 years. There's some other work that was before council, a creek work or another bridge or viaduct culvert in the area. Would that be part of the same, or could it be part of the same work?
Through you, Mayor Burton, we do have some additional work in the general vicinity that's recommended through our Joshua Creek study, which will be coming forward shortly to council. That work is a Metrolinx culvert to replace, but certainly if we are doing extensive work with a replacement of a bridge, we would be working together with Metrolinx and the other agencies in the area to look at what work needs to be done and are there opportunities to do both at the same time.
Do you know whether that fits into the same time frame approximately that for the Metrolinx work as well?
Through you, Mayor Burton, at this point, I understand that work is not yet funded by Metrolinx and not yet in their forecast, but we are in regular communications with Metrolinx about this project, and also we've met with them about that one. So certainly we would be looking at whether it made sense to do 2 projects in the same area at the same time.
All right, thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to move that if there aren't any other questions.
There are questions, but I accept your motion. It's always welcome. Councillor Chisholm and then Councillor Hazlet-Thiel.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, Metrolinx, was there any consideration or any movement Metrolinx on shared cost on this bridge? Was there any intent or discussion with that?
Through you, Mayor Burton, this is a bridge that is wholly owned by the town, and so the repair and rehabilitation costs of our structures are our responsibility.
Thank you.
Councillor Hazlet-Thiel.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Burton. Approximate cost of a full rebuild of the bridge?
Through you, Mayor Burton, at this point, we have very preliminary numbers, and they would obviously need to be reviewed in great detail as we go through the design process. At this point, though, we're looking at something in the area of 55 to 65 million.
And so you're confident that we're going to get a 10 to 15-year extension of its life and be able to provide a safe bridge. But we are going to spend $23 million, which is almost close to half of what you're projecting would be the estimated cost of a rebuild.
Through you, Mayor Burton, we have gone through the rehabilitation strategy review with our design consultant, with our own internal team, multiple departments, asset management, engineering, finance. And we've had a third party look at the review, the rehabilitation plan as well. So we are recommending that this is the way we move forward. The 65 million is a high estimate at this point and looking at the structure, but we have to look at the role that this road plays in our overall transportation network and the importance of keeping that structure open and operating without lane and load restrictions. And that is a big part of our recommendation, to keep it open and to move forward with the rehabilitation plan now.
Thanks for that additional clarity.
Thank you. Councillor Chisholm again.
Thank you, Worship. I'm sorry for coming in second time. At one time, that was a provincial highway. Wasn't it 122? 122. And when did we assume that highway? Do we have a...
Yep, through you, Mayor Burton, we assumed that highway in 1970.
Maybe we should give it back to them.
Well, now it's a complete meeting because we had a laugh too. Thank you, Councillor Chisholm. I'll put the motion by Councillor Giddings. Is there an objection? Madam Clerk, I see no objection and it carries. Thank you very much, Council. So now, what we want is, I guess need this other page. Somehow in this stack of papers, I misplaced 10.2. I've got 5, I've got 7. Okay, here we go. So now I need page 7. No, wait. Okay, I think we've got everything. So 10.2 is the item we're on. Now, for this one, we have a presentation by Selena Campbell, the Director of Municipal Enforcement Services, and I recommend that we give her our attention. We have delegations from the Bronte BIA and from Mr. Harry Shea. And Selena, you have our full attention.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. I'm here to speak to item number 10.2 on tonight's agenda, which presents 3 options for council's consideration to address towing from private parking lots. There's also a confidential legal report on the agenda regarding this matter. Before we get to the options, I'll review how parking on private property, private parking lots is currently enforced. So bylaw number 1981-65 regulates the parking or leaving of vehicles on private parking lots without the consent of the property owner. At this time, private parking lot owners may register with the town to request that the town's mobile compliance officers, or MCOs, enforce parking on their lots under the bylaw. Or private property lot owners can apply to have persons delegated under the municipal powers and duties bylaw to enforce parking under bylaw number 1981-65. Persons provided with this authority are known as municipal law enforcement officers, or MLEOs, for the purpose of this report and presentation. So bylaw number 1981-65 provides for the towing of unauthorized vehicles from private parking lots. These tows may be directed by the police, mobile compliance officers, or municipal law enforcement officers. Private parking lot owners also tow vehicles under common law. So it should be noted that the town has not been involved in towing from vehicles from private parking lots for the past 10 years. This reallocation of resources has limited the impact on the tax rate. So there's three options that we're presenting to council tonight. So the following three options to address towing from private parking lots without the vehicle owner's consent are presented, of course, for your consideration. And option one is to contact the province to consider amendments to the Towing and Storage Safety and Enforcement Act, better known as TSIA. Option two is to amend the bylaw 1981-65 to reflect the current enforcement practice. And option three is to override the private parking lot owner's ability to tow from a vehicle from their property. So option one suggests that the mayor, on behalf of council, write to the minister to urge the province to consider amendments to the Towing and Storage Safety and Enforcement Act, TSIA again, to define the other person with authority to direct impoundment of storage of a vehicle. So TSIA requires a vehicle owner's consent before a vehicle is towed and states who can provide that consent. TSIA goes on to provide that consent is not required if the vehicle is impounded or stored at the direction of a police officer or other person with authority to direct the impoundment or storage. So TSIA and its regulations do not define who that person with authority is. So under the legislation, it's unclear if this includes a municipal law enforcement officer or a private parking lot owner. The ambiguity is around the term makes it difficult to choose a path when it comes to managing towing without consent. Provincial legislation often identifies the individuals who have authority to act under that legislation, such as police officers or provincial offences officers. TSIA doesn't clearly provide that information. The mayor writing to the minister with the weight of council behind him may highlight the challenges municipalities face when dealing with towing without the vehicle owner's consent and encourage the province to provide more clarification. Option two suggests that bylaw number 1981-65 be amended to reflect the current practice with respect to towing from private parking lots. The bylaw would be amended to remove towing entirely. So MCOs and MLEOs would enforce parking by issuing penalty notices, but would not direct tows from private property. Private parking lot owners would have to find their own remedy to remove unauthorized vehicles, such as towing under common law or under TSIA if they believe that they are included as the other person with authority to direct impoundment or storage of a vehicle without the vehicle owner's consent. The town uses this bylaw to tow abandoned vehicles, vehicles causing safety issues, etc., from municipal parking lots as well. So if this bylaw was amended to remove towing, staff would amend the municipal right-of-way bylaw to provide for towing from municipal parking lots and facilities. Then we have option three. So option three suggests that municipal enforcement services continue discussions with Halton Regional Police on the preparation of a bylaw that would override a private parking lot owner's ability to tow. Discussions would also include how such a bylaw would be enforced and how impoundment contrary to the bylaw would be addressed. This option would require not only the preparation of a bylaw, but the establishment of a towing program, setting service levels, developing procedures, and understanding resource requirements. It will take time to consider such matters as whether or not an MLEO should be able to direct a tow, or if there would be a time delay between the issuance of a penalty and the time that a vehicle is towed, or if the tow could be immediate in certain circumstances. So there's a number of considerations we would have to look at. And that sums up all three of the options, and I am certainly available for any questions.
I think you'll get a few. Councillor McNeice, you can lead them off.
Thank you, through your worship, and thank you, Selena, for the presentation and all the work that's gone into this. So for option one of going back to the province, I just wanted everyone to know that Councillor Mayer and I have met with the province along with staff, and our MPP, Crawford, has been out to the site where a lot of this happens as well. The province has been quite clear that they've given municipalities the authority to regulate private towing from parking lots, as well as to further define this authorized party. So, you know, I think kicking the can down the road to the province, I think we're just going to be going back and forth, and they've been quite clear that they've given us the authority. I guess my question, though, is around option 3. Are there other municipalities that have programs similar to option 3 and bylaws similar to option 3?
Through you, Your Worship, there are a number of municipalities that have similar options. Vaughan and Whitby were two that we look closely at. Whereas Vaughan allows towing from private parking lots to be conducted by an MLEO as well as what we would call an MCO. And Whitby restricts authorization to be solely from a police officer or an MCO. So they're a little bit different. They're nuanced a little bit differently. So we would have to look at that and find out what the right fit for Oakville would be.
And would you have an estimated timing on how long the creation of the bylaw and the working with our police to enact an enforcement program would take?
Right now, we're looking at Q1 2025. Or, yeah, sorry, 2025.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Council. Councillor McNeice, did you want to make a motion? Somebody's got to. Councillor Knoll.
I think we have some delegations. Maybe do we want to hear from them first? Or?
Yeah, we'd be glad to hear from them, but they could speak to your indicated. Anyway, we'll do it any way you want. Councillor Knoll.
Thank you, Worship. I just wanted to convey some information from the Halton Police Board as well as the Halton Police Service that I know that there's been consultations with our staff at HRPS. I've spoken with the chief and the command team earlier today and several of my board member colleagues, and the chief has assured us that should we choose option 3, that they will work cooperatively with the town to find a solution that works, that's the best fit for the police, with one caveat that they don't want to be in the position of being the first call, but they're certainly prepared to work with us on that, as will be the board itself. So I can give you that assurance that should option 3 be selected, that there will be cooperation, and hopefully a good outcome will come from that.
Councillor McNeice.
Through your worship, thank you, Councillor Knoll. With that assurance, I'd be happy to move option 3.
All right, and Councillor Chisholm.
Thank you, Worship. Just a quick question to staff with respect to if we go to option 3, does that increase our FTEs with respect to bylaw enforcement?
Through you, Your Worship, we would need to look at what really what we're trying to resolve and the service level that would be required. So if there was an immediate response required, it may require additional FTEs. If we're looking at longer response times, it may require fewer FTEs. And then again, it really depends on the quantity of calls that we're looking at as well. When you look at a municipality like Whitby, they have 5 to 10 per year. I spoke to one of my counterparts in Guelph who also participate in a version of towing, and they have about 25 per month on average. So it really depends on the municipality, and we'll have to assess our specific needs.
Do we have that type of data with respect to the towings that happen in private, or is that, because I know we're not involved in it, I would assume we don't have the data. Is that correct?
Through you, Your Worship, that's correct. At this time, we wouldn't have that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Giddings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate Councillor Knoll's input. That's an important part of the decision this evening. The best way to prevent towing is to have the vehicle owners realize where they are. Having been out to Bronte and looking around at a number of the parking lots, I can see how a number of people would say the signage wasn't big enough, close enough, near enough, bold enough, whatever. Are we satisfied with the signage? Do we have feedback on that from staff or my council colleagues? I'm just curious if that would be part of the solution.
Through you, Your Worship. We used to license towing from our tow trucks. And as part of that, we required larger signage and specifically in some of the properties of concern. I can say that that didn't necessarily stop the towing from private property. So unfortunately, the larger signage did not resolve that issue.
All right, well, and I appreciate that the property owners have a right to make use of their property and not have people taking up the spaces. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Giddings. Madam Clerk, let's hear from the delegations now.
The first delegation is Kylie Wilson from the Bronte BIA.
Welcome, Ms. Wilson. We're looking forward to hearing what you think of the path we're marking out that we might go down.
Thank you. And it seems like a hopeful discussion tonight. So good evening, Mayor Burton, councillors. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to item 10.2, towing vehicles from private property. As was mentioned, my name is Kylie Wilson, and I'm the Executive Director of the Bronte BIA. Tonight, I'm representing the 175 businesses within our commercial district. I know this council chamber, as we've just learned, is already well informed that towing is an epidemic for our businesses in Bronte. We're a waterfront community with so much to celebrate. We have a beautiful harbor, charming retail stores, exceptional restaurants, vibrant event spaces, but towing vehicles from private lots remains a years-long problem that has damaged the social and economic health of our community. Predatory towing from private property has created an unfair problem for our small business owners to deal with. And maintaining the current status quo isn't sustainable, it's not acceptable, and it's not reasonable. This evening, as is evidenced by this agenda item tonight, I'm so hopeful that Council is motivated to discuss local policy options such as Outcome 3 to pursue a solution. Because I want to provide a little context about what the epidemic of towing looks like in Bronte, as I'm sure you're very familiar with. It looks like signs posted on business storefronts, not welcoming customers, but warning them about the risk of towing. It looks like restaurants needing to hire additional staff just to ask, where did you park today? And then carrying the burden of managing the behaviors and the actions of their customers thereafter. It looks like business owners running across parking lots to try and stop their customers' vehicles from being towed. It looks like two of our long-standing businesses, one with 67 years in Bronte, deciding it was time to close shop and relocate because they were tired of dealing with the issue. It looks like business owners giving away gift cards at their own expense to try and retain customers that have been impacted by towing. It looks like endless commentary from community social media feeds calling for boycotts of Bronte businesses that aren't in any way responsible for the decisions of two private property owners. It looks like multiple cars being towed out of Centralia Square Plaza just this past Thursday at 7:30 p.m. There were 5 businesses out of 17 open, 18 vehicles in the parking lot with a capacity for 150, and I watched 3 cars get pulled away. It looks like a heavy-handed tactic that's not benefiting the businesses that it claims to serve. It looks like frustrated business owners who say they can't grow their business because of the rippled impacts they face from towing. And finally, it also looks like resilient business owners who have weathered COVID, who are finding creative ways to compete with online retail, who are embracing our new period of construction and transformation in Bronte, but they're asking for help in solving the towing problem in our community. So I'm hopeful, and the conversation tonight makes me even more hopeful, that the time is now to disrupt this practice that has damaged our reputation and negatively impacted the retail health of our business community. As I said earlier, maintaining status quo, which I believe is option 2, is not sustainable, it's not acceptable, and it's not reasonable. So if council has a remedy that can bring more reasonableness to the current approach that's being taken to towing in Bronte on private property, something that will help to reestablish Bronte as a premier destination with a beautiful waterfront, top-tier retail and exceptional restaurants, a place that welcomes visitors, then I believe our businesses would be in favor of this option, and I believe Bronte deserves this option. So I want to thank you very much for the opportunity and the platform to speak tonight, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Councillor McNeice will supply your first question.
Thank you, through your worship, and thanks, Kylie, for a great snapshot of what's going on in Bronte. So as sort of the head of the BIA, I don't know if it's the slogan or sort of the vision is that you would shop one, or park once in the district, sorry, park once, shop the district. Do you want to elaborate on that and sort of what you encourage?
Sure. So I believe it was about 10 years ago. So it was 2 executive directors ago had told me that the former slogan for Bronte was park once, walk everywhere. Obviously, this might not be possible, but we are, the town is actively investing in Bronte's streetscape right now, in our Lakeshore Road redesign, trying to improve our public realm and make it pedestrian friendly. And this predatory towing makes that vision impossible to realize. So we try and be a place where everyone feels welcome, but right now it's not possible. So it does feel like there needs to be some level of, like I say, reasonableness. Somebody should be able to visit this private property, get their dog food, go book their hearing appointment, grab some groceries, and if they need to, walk across the street to grab an ice cream without the fear that the car is going to be gone when they get back. And I think that would help us improve or bring that slogan back.
And the property you're talking about, there's on the sort of parcel of land, there's actually 4 owners, and you can barely tell which lot you've parked in. One you get towed, the other ones you don't. Is that fair to say?
Exactly. There's 2 particular lots where this practice is rampant, and for anybody who's been there, there's not a clear delineation between the different properties. So I really feel like people are making an innocent mistake most often when they come and park in that lot, and there's just no grace period that exists for them to get back in time once those restaurant owners, for example, ask them where they've parked. Oftentimes within 5 minutes, the vehicle's already gone.
And I know you've been involved with Bronte's BIA for a number of years. Have you heard of any other BIAs that are dealing with a parking issue like this?
I have not, actually. It's unique to Bronte and hopefully a thing of the past very soon.
And you mentioned a number of events. Congratulations on the Farmers Market. I think you said 3,800, 4,000 people. You're heading in the right direction. We had the D-Day parade, the holiday event as well. But as you mentioned, this undercurrent of where did I park, this anxiety still exists that people are going to get towed. Is that fair to say?
That's right. There is an culture of fear when it comes to visiting Bronte. And so no matter what we do as a BIA to create goodwill and do that community building, as soon as anything is posted that we're having an event, there's yelling that happens online, but where will we park? And I think it would be a benefit to the community just to remove that element of fear and allow people to feel like they can come and be welcomed and enjoy the neighborhood.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Madam Clerk, would you call the next delegation?
The next delegation is Harry Shea.
Mr. Shea, long time no see.
Bronte and towing are 2 words that are unfortunately linked together. Tonight, Council has the opportunity to take the appropriate steps to ensure predatory towing will no longer be the scourge that hangs over Bronte. To give you a sense of how this issue is constantly top of mind within Bronte, and it's a bit of what Kylie talked about earlier, I attended both the afternoon and evening sessions of the recent Bronte Village Streetscaping Public Information meetings on June 29th. Both meetings started with residents expressing their concerns that the next 2 hours of the meeting, speaking to Bronte's future to revitalize and strengthen Bronte's retail landscape, just might be a fool's errand if towing is not addressed and dealt with once and for all. The refrain was, why come to Bronte when you might get your car towed? Last year, leaving Le Parisian restaurant on its last night of operation, permanently closing to make way for a new condo building, I encountered a stunned individual whose car had been towed away while enjoying dinner in Bronte. He had sent his family back to the restaurant as he sorted out his options for retrieving his car. I shared with him I live a few blocks away and that I would fetch my car and take him to the pond. When I returned, we were joined by another towing victim, with all three of us headed to Spears Road. To add insult to injury, when we arrived, we were told by the tow truck operator we had to wait as he had another car to pick up. So for the next 40 minutes, I too fumed along with my fellow passengers about never ever returning to Bronte. Although this is my personal story, the BVRA has received dozens of letters from either BVRA members who had friends visit Bronte only to have their cars towed, or from non-members expressing their frustration and asking what will the BVRA do to correct this crazy situation. Some have suggested boycotting the stores, but that only punishes the retailers, which is not a solution. And it's not really about the towing companies. It is the private parking lot owners who choose to tow. They and they alone need to be reined in. So let's review the options. Option number 1 is essentially kicking the can down the road. Option 2 just promotes the status quo as stated in the report. Option 3, this is the option that gets to the heart of the matter. Option 3 would override the ability of private parking lot owners to tow and would require all vehicles removals to be approved by the town or Halton Region Police. We respectfully ask that council vote for and adopt option 3. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Shea. Thank you very much for your time. Okay, the motion's duly moved. Councillor O'Meara.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a couple comments, if that's okay, too, because it's not just a Bronte thing. And in Ward 2, when prayers on Friday happen, you can watch the exact same tow truck driver scoop and actually drop cars illegally on Pine Grove because there's so many to get and scoop them up. So this has happened, and I've watched it happen on a Friday while prayers are happening in the afternoon. And I will remind my council colleagues who are here with us, I think it was back in 2017 when we initially brought in our tow bylaw, we had well, it wasn't the council chambers that time, it was the auditorium full of tow truck drivers. And to one of them, they all blamed one individual. And they said, we don't want this in our industry. We think it gives us all a bad name, and we need to try and fix this. And I think that's telling that even the industry is looking to try and rid itself of this predatory in nature. And then the last thing, and I have talked with business owners, and maybe to echo Councillor Gidding's comments a little bit, private property owners have the right to tow. This does not stop them from being able to tow. It just puts a process in place. And it sets in motion an expectation and on private property owners, on the tow industry, and on the people who decide to visit and don't obey the signs. And I think we all acknowledge that people need to follow the rules, and especially on private property. And so I'm happy that if we can go this way, I think it's going to help. I think the paid parking project, which we're going to be discussing next, is going to help. It's going to give those park once shop places, but on a municipal parking lot, which will alleviate a lot of this. So this is a bad actor and a bad apple, and I think it's going to help to rectify that. And I don't think we'll have a lot of pushback as some private property owners might feel they have. But anyway, I appreciate everyone's concerns and hope that you'll support us.
Thank you, Councillor O'Meara. Councillor McNeice.
Thank you, through your worship. Just wondering if I can amend my own motion just to add a bit of a time frame to it. It would be great seeing we have acknowledgement from Councillor Knoll that the police board's very interested in this, the police chief. If we could have this wrapped up by year end, it'd be a nice Christmas gift to Bronte. So if we could add that to the motion that by year end it could be back to council with the bylaw and the procedure in place.
So point number 2 would be council requests the completion of the work and return to council by the end of the year?
Yeah, I believe the resolution that staff has suggested would be on page 8, which has 3 points already. So we would add a 4th point to it, if I'm not mistaken.
All right. Do you want to provide that to the clerk?
Yeah, maybe Jane has some guidance.
Well, we'll see.
Okay.
Through you, Mayor Burton. We will do our best to get it by the end of the year. 2 things. There are a number of projects on the table right now for municipal enforcement to go through. You have the licensing, the noise bylaw, several of those. So it will impact the timing, I think probably of the licensing bylaw to some extent. It is just 1 or 3 months earlier that you're asking for in terms of the time frame. The other piece that we had considered as we set out the time frame was that there is some consultation involved in this. Consultation is important for the integrity of the overall bylaw and the process, which is, I think, in this case, important for us to sustain. Those things, we'll look to see how we can fit those things in order to try and bring it back by December. I just raised those two points, but we will do our best to bring it back, recognizing that there will be a delay in some other projects that municipal enforcement currently has on their plate.
Okay, understood. Thank you very much. Seeing this is such a dynamic one, we get about 6 tows a day or 200 a month. I think it's well worth advancing this as soon as we can. So thank you.
Councillor Knoll.
Thank you, Worship. First of all, I just want to thank Councillor McNeice and Councillor O'Meara for being advocates for their community on this matter. And I think that pushing the staff isn't the right word, but encouraging the staff to really dig into this has paid some good dividends here. There's some good work done, and I appreciate that. I would suggest an additional point, it's a minor point, I think it's a friendly amendment, but that the resolution and the staff report be formally referred to both the police service and the chief of police, so that there's a formal connection between what's done tonight and what we're expecting in the future. And I'd be perfectly willing to shepherd that through my board.
Okay, so circulated to the police service and board. Alrighty, I think we have consent around the table for that. Thank you, Councillor Knoll. Councillor McNeice and Councillor O'Meara, I only have one nagging worry about this matter, and that's the definition of who's an authorized person. And in your meetings with the province, you said that you were given assurance that they had absolutely given us a tight definition there. Are you sure it's as tight as you'd like it to be? And if you would like it to be tighter, I recommend that we ask them to make it tighter. I believe there is some ambiguity in that phrase in the statute. You might want to also add to your motion option 1, where you ask the mayor to write to work. I mean, I'll do more than write. I'll contact the ministers. But it gives extra weight if council is.
I would be happy to do that, Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Are we all clear then on what we're doing? Okay. We'll rely on the clerks to make it all make sense on paper later. Any objection to the motion? Madam Clerk, there being none, that carries, and it carries unanimously. We now move to 10.3, the Bronte Village Commercial Parking Program. We have an important staff presentation from Margaret Boswell, the Manager of Strategy, Licensing, and Business Services, and we have a delegation from Mr. Shea. It's Bronte night at Council, and to a degree, it's Harry Shea night. And now it's Ms. Boswell's time.
Can you hear me?
Yes. We can.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. I am here to speak to item 10.3 on tonight's agenda, which presents an overview of the Bronte Commercial Parking Program and recommendation to council to continue the Bronte Commercial Parking Program as a self-funding, permanent, ongoing program. In 2019, council approved the introduction of a commercial parking program in Bronte. The commercial parking program was introduced due to concerns that vehicles were parking for extended periods of time within the on-street parking spaces in Bronte Village, leaving limited spaces for shoppers to park. While the current zoning bylaw requires businesses in Bronte to provide their own private parking, the town's on-street parking program provides supplemental and convenient parking adjacent to prime storefront locations. A commercial parking program provides an effective way to promote turnover where parking supply is limited. The program provides various time limits to park, managed through payment. This helps to ensure the spaces are available for customers, visitors, and residents. The pilot program was launched in July 2019 with 145 on-street parking spaces and an additional 27 off-street parking spaces accommodated on municipal land within the parking lot at Bronte Village Mall. These 27 spaces have since been removed and replaced with 9 on-street spaces on Lakeshore Road West, bringing the current number of on-street parking spaces to 154. The Bronte Commercial Paid Parking Program was developed following a similar format to already established commercial parking operations in Kerr Village and downtown Oakville. The pilot program in 2019 launched with the following options available: designated accessible on-street parking spaces, 20-minute quick stops, short-stay transient customer parking, hourly and all-day parking, monthly permit parking, and EV charging stations. Payment may be made through credit card, cash, or through Honk app by phone. Multi-space meters and Honk payments leverage technology to provide payment information to the enforcement officers for use on patrol. As part of measuring use and supply of commercial parking, a parking utilization survey is undertaken on regular cycles. These surveys assist for future program planning and project initiatives. For the Bronte Commercial Parking Pilot, the intent was to measure utilization within the first 2 years of introducing the program. However, in 2020, plans to conduct a parking survey were put on hold as provincial regulations and public health guidance related to COVID-interrupted commercial parking programs townwide. Social distancing requirements and related business closures changed parking behavior, thereby limiting parking data collection in the commercial districts from the period of 2020 to 2022. The first opportunity to conduct a meaningful parking utilization survey was in the fall of 2022. The data collected indicates an overutilization in several areas of on-street parking within the Bronte Commercial District. For reference, the term overutilization means parking use is at over 100% of capacity within the areas surveyed. The overutilization reported in several areas within this district supports the continuation of the commercial parking program as a way that we can monitor and manage parking time limits, allowing for shared access to the on-street parking spaces in the defined area. With a permanent paid parking program in place, the parking survey results from 2022 will be used in comparison to future parking surveys to determine trends, utilization, and duration to consider opportunities for improvements and refinements to programs. Bronte Village has experienced several interruptions to the commercial parking program since 2019. Such impacts have been monitored under the pilot program, and if the program becomes permanent, will continue to be monitored as they occur. Some of the more notable impacts to mention are as follows. As noted earlier, provincial regulations due to COVID interrupted commercial parking programs in all commercial districts, being Bronte, Kerr, and downtown Oakville. We have major redevelopment projects leading to temporary removal of parking spaces in Bronte. We also have temporary on-street parking accommodation requests under the multi-vehicle parking permit program, which seeks to assist residents living in medium and high-density developments while their private parking is restricted due to building maintenance. On-street parking requirements attached to these projects can range from 1 day to several months, depending on their scope. And lastly, it is important to mention that initial work is currently underway to enhance the Bronte Village streetscape. The streetscape plans include on-street parking among several other design and infrastructure elements. This project was launched this year in 2024 in April, with public engagement ongoing and continuing to be so into 2025. Implementation of the streetscape plan may impact the number and location of on-street parking spaces in Bronte Village. That is yet to be determined. In 2024, and we currently have several projects identified for the Bronte Village area specifically related to parking. They're either underway or soon to be initiated. These projects consider the Bronte Commercial Pilot Program, as well as looking forward to the potential of introducing this as a more permanent program. Some projects currently underway include a Bronte Technology Pilot Program, future parking lot at existing Jones, Ontario Street property that we currently own, expansion of paid parking program, and investigation of accessing private parking areas for public use. These initiatives will follow for the continuation and growth of the commercial parking program in Bronte. Looking forward, past 2024, several parking initiatives specific to Bronte have been identified for future consideration. With an improved commercial parking program, parking program, new projects and initiatives in the Bronte Commercial District will be funded through capital funding from the Parking Reserve Fund as a part of the regular budget cycle. Future planning through the budget cycle will allow for the data collection and program review to further monitor and evaluate the commercial parking program in Bronte. Staff will continue to review potential land purchases to assist in parking supply as part of this process. The information presented today provides context of the Bronte commercial parking program under the pilot program. The commercial parking program in Bronte has proven to be an effective way to manage the on-street parking supply in Bronte Village. To expand the commercial parking program and continue future technologies, programming, and utilization surveys, the commercial parking program will need to be established as an ongoing program, thereby contributing to the Parking Reserve Fund through parking rates, fees, and penalties collected under the program. With this in mind, staff are recommending that the Bronte commercial parking program become permanent in Bronte Village. If approved, staff will also commit to undertake a review of the commercial area for opportunities to expand the current program, and this is expected to be undertaken this year with a follow-up report to council with the outcome of the findings. And that concludes my presentation for today. I would be happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much for your report, and Councillor O'Meara will lead off the questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for the presentation, and thanks for doing all this work. I know it's been a long time in the making here, and I appreciate that. And thank you to all my council colleagues for the Bronte night tonight. I know it's been it's been a lot. I know when we brought the pilot project out, there was a bit of a mishmash of actual parking meters because we were using what we had. Is that all going to be streamlined, or what are we looking at with regards to the parking infrastructure where they're going to go?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, Councilor O'Meara, yes, the current infrastructure in place will be reviewed as an ongoing basis. There are plans in the 2025 budget to enhance current multi-space meters to a TAP program, which will be a significant improvement to what is currently there. It will just make it far quicker to access payment. In addition, we will be reviewing where we have the single space meters, which to further enhance the ability to potentially put the multi-space meters in those locations. We are looking at creating a strategy that will help us identify these areas and then roll out where multi-space meters would be a better use.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I know we might have a delegate on this one, but Your Worship, I'd be happy to move this as well. It's been a long time in the making, and at a quieter time in Bronte's life, there was an opinion that never shall you have paid parking here, and I think we're in a different time now, and I appreciate the work that you've done, and I think it's how we get to a better Bronte, and it's how we get to some parking solutions, which, as we've heard tonight, have a need a multifaceted approach to solving. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor O'Meara. Councillor McNeice.
Thank you, through your worship, and thanks for the detailed presentation tonight. Just wanted to touch on the, I guess it would be publicly accessible parking in private buildings, or I guess private lots. Is that part of the 2025 work plan as well, or what would be the next steps, or how would this sort of integrate with the pilot?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there is currently on the work plan an initiative to review where private parking is available, that where there's opportunities potentially to engage in some sort of partnership and/or availability of commercial parking and how to better identify the commercial parking. We will be reviewing that over the next several months with and can include that in the report back to council as we look at expanding the program.
Okay, thank you. And if I could just add to that, I know initially we were looking at sort of condominium buildings that had commercial spaces allocated, but I know in some municipalities, they look at, say, private lots or, say, a building like the Legion or something that may benefit if it was paid parking from some revenue, and there could be a win-win situation there. So if we could maybe add that into the research as well, that would be appreciated.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Madam Clerk, would you call the registered delegation? And let me, while Mr. Shea is coming forward, let me extend an invitation to Ms. Wilson if she has anything to say on this.
Good evening again. While considering speaking to this issue, I kept thinking about the planned $80 million investment for Oakville's downtown parking. I imagine the impact if the town directed a similar investment towards permanent structure in Bronte. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say it would be transformative for our community. The staff report mentions financing future parking services and programs, but it lacks, at least in my opinion, any specifics about a dedicated parking structure or garage. With permanent paid commercial parking, can we establish a Bronte parking fund and secure the necessary investment for a much-needed parking structure in the foreseeable future? Also, a crucial aspect of Bronte's parking dynamic is the underutilized commercial visitor parking within the existing condo buildings, as was previously highlighted. Despite these designated spaces, a lack of proper signage and wayfinding renders them virtually invisible. I've raised this concern before. Why haven't we held developers accountable for ensuring these promised visitor spaces are readily available? After all, these parking spaces were part of their approved development plans. If developers are failing to meet their obligations, can the town step in, install clear signage, and implement effective wayfinding systems for these visitor spots? And can then the associated costs be charged back to the developers? And finally, returning back to item 10.3, we ask council to approve making paid commercial parking permanent in Bronte. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Shea. Ms. Wilson, did you want to contribute anything? Thank you very much. All right, council, I'll put the motion to you. Any objections to the motion by Councilor O'Meara? Madam Clerk, there being none, that's carried. Council, I believe that I need to ask you to give us a motion to receive the Accessibility Advisory Committee minutes dated June 13th, 2024. Councilor Giddings, thank you. Any objection? There being none, that's carried. Could I get a mover to rise and report to council? Councilor Haslett-Thiel, thank you. Any objection? There being none, that carries. I need a, I rise and report that the Committee of the Whole has met and made recommendations on consent items 8.1, confidential consent 9.1, discussion items 10.1, 10.2, 0.3, 0.4, and 12.1, as noted by the clerk. A mover and seconder to adopt this report would be in order. Councillor Grant and Councillor Chisholm, thank you. Any objection? There being none, the report is adopted. Council, I call your attention to your information items previously circulated. I ask if there are any new business for council tonight. Councillor Knoll.
Thank you, Worship. Since we're leaving at a reasonable time, I thought I would take a moment. Hopefully there's still people watching on YouTube, and to the audience, I wanted to congratulate two organizations on two great events that happened in the past few weeks. First of all, I want to congratulate the Oakville Trafalgar Rotary Club and the Oakville Lions on another successful run of Rib Fest, notwithstanding the fact that Mother Nature seems to really hate ribs because she keeps dumping rain on it, but it's notwithstanding that, it was a great event. Money was raised and everybody had a great time, so thank you very much for your support of that. The second event is the annual Oakville Film Festival put on by the Oakville Festivals of Film and Art. Wendy Donan and her team put on another wonderful festival that spanned the week of the 19th of June to the 23rd, including industry insider summits at the Power Boat Club downtown, the gala at the Oakville Center for the Performing Arts, and screenings at film.ca. It was a wonderful event. It brings some great fame and acclaim to Oakville. Some very notable actors were in attendance this year. Some great films were screened, and it's certainly helping drive our economic development plan with respect to the film industry forward. So congratulations to all the volunteers that were involved in both of these events. We look forward to both of them coming up again next year.
Thank you, Councillor Knoll. Councillor Elgar.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Burton, I think there's a request for report tonight, correct? Still on the agenda?
Yes, somewhere. Here it is. It's coming up in another step. We're not quite there yet. We're at number 16, and we're going to get to the request for report is number 18. I'll detain you only a moment for item 17, which is regional reports and question period regarding town boards and advisory committees. And Councillor Chisholm, this report's for you, because you asked for this. Once upon a time, you said it'd be good if we told you about the region from time to time. Yes. I've got some things for everybody about the region. The future models for transit service delivery across the 4 local municipalities of Halton Region are being, there's a report presenting 11 or 12 of these different models on the Regional Municipality of Halton Council agenda tomorrow morning. And you can find that on the halton.ca website. Because transit is a really big deal for Oakville, and not so big a deal for the other 3 local municipalities in Halton. This is something that the local councillors, it seems to me, need to be, you need to be alerted to it, and your input to us on regional council would be very valuable. There's big changes being considered, and there's a dozen different ideas for how to do it. And we're going to have to apply ourselves to figure out what's the best way for Oakville. And the second thing on the region's agenda tomorrow is a report concerning, a confidential report considering the fiscal impacts of Ontario's removal of planning policy making from Halton and moved down to the 4 local municipalities. This shifts expense from the region to the town, and it's going to be important that the tax revenue, the tax room that was funding the expense at the region comes down to the town. And it's not yet clear that the region hasn't exactly given assurances that that's going to happen. And so we have some work to do on that. The 4 mayors of Halton had a brief chat today, and we decided that we're going to bring a motion tomorrow asking for a deferral of that report for a month so that we can discuss it at the local level and get a better grasp of it. The report was only circulated, like a day ago. So, and don't hold me to that, but it only was just circulated, and not nearly enough time to do the consultation with you and with staff. And so watch for that. There's a possibility that that deferral will pass, because I think all councillors share the concern of the mayors about who pays for what. And then finally, there's much more on the agenda, and I'm not going to run through all of it, but camaraderie here requires me to mention that there's an important motion to ask the federal government to do a better job fighting auto theft being presented tomorrow by our colleague, Halton Regional Police Board Chair Jeff Knoll, and me. And so I think it's worth your time to at least go look at the agenda and read or scan the reports that interest you. I don't always recommend that use of your time, but tomorrow I think is a good use. And now that brings us to request for report. This is titled Heritage Way Speed Limit. It's moved by Councillor Elgar and seconded by Councillor Dudek. And it reads that, and councillors, I'm going to recommend a slight word change, and if you're okay with it, just be happy with it. And if you don't like it, just put your hand up and we'll go back to your words. But I'm trying to make sure it's super clear what you want. That staff conduct public consultation in the Heritage Way neighborhood for reinstating the 50 kilometer per hour. I've substituted the word for reinstating instead of to reinstate, because the words to reinstate sound like you're making a decision to do it and then consulting about it. So I'm not sure that's what you meant. So, Councillor Elgar?
Mayor Burton, I'm fine with that. When we did the trial there, we were the one ward that instead of the speeds reducing, they increased when we put from 50 to 40. Now it's kind of a weird thing to happen, and I've had a number of residents complaining that why haven't the signs changed? So I appreciate Councillor Dudek stepping in. Councillor Longo couldn't be available. He fully supports the motion, but he couldn't be with us tonight. So I thank you very much, Councillor Dudek, for seconding that.
Okay, so it then continues, for reinstating the 50 kilometer per hour previously posted speed limit from the current posted speed limit of 40 kilometers per hour on all streets of Heritage Way, 40 kilometer per hour area, excluding 40 kilometer per hour school zones on Heritage Way, and report back to council on the results. That's the motion. Council, I'm going to ask for a vote to approve the request, but right after we hear, but first we're going to hear from Councillor O'Meara.
Thank you, Worship. I'm just wondering what the survey is going to, how the survey is going to be determined. Is it just going to be, let's ask people, or what information is going to be provided to them? What back, like, you know, are we just going to say, what do you want? Or what are we asking people to make a decision based upon? Just, do you want 40 or 50? Or is there going to be information based on why that is? I'm just trying to figure out what we're going to be asking people.
All right, there's no survey as written. It's that staff conduct public consultation in the Heritage Way neighborhood for reinstating the 50 kilometer, et cetera.
Okay, so let me rephrase that then. I'm just wondering how public consultation is going to happen and what information or what information is going to be brought to residents so that they can make an informed decision rather than just a decision on, do you like the number 50 or do you like the number 40?
Well, Councillor, the movers of the report are trusting staff to do a quality public consultation. If you'd like to prescribe how it's done, I don't know how to help you.
It was just a question. That was it.
Okay, well, can we hear from staff as to how you're going to do the public consultation?
I don't know if Jill Stephen is still, thank you, Jill.
She came ambling down the corridor there as Councillor O'Meara was talking.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Burton. All of the stats that we used when we reported back at the end of the pilot project for the 3 areas are public and were reported in the staff report. So we would ensure that that information is available to the residents as part of the consultation program. We'll work with Councillor Elgar and Councillor Longo on scoping exactly how and when they want to reach out to the residents in that area, but we will make sure that there is information available both on how that program or how the program worked in that area as well as the 2 other areas. And we have other speed survey data that we can share as well.
Thank you for the answer. Councillor O'Meara, are you okay now? All righty. Council, is there any objection to the request for report? Madam Clerk, there being none, the request is approved. We need a mover and seconder for consideration and reading of the bylaws. Councillor McNeice and Councillor Haslett-Thiel, thank you. This is that the following bylaws be passed. Bylaw 2024-68, the bylaw to amend the fire route bylaw. Bylaw 2024-102, a bylaw to dedicate certain land as part of a public highway. Bylaw 2024-108, a bylaw to dedicate certain land as part of a public highway. And bylaw 2024-115, the confirmatory bylaw. And all those in favor? Let's try something different. That carries. The bylaws are considered read and passed. And Madam Clerk, what am I supposed to do with 20? Okay. Well then, I have good news. It's only 8:04. Those of you who are interested in the soccer game are going to be able to see some of it, because that ends the meeting. And I thank everybody for the way we work together. It's been terrific working with you, and we'll see you next time.